This building doesn't really seem that extraordinary. I mean, it's pleasing to the eye, but driving by, you have no idea of the variety and importance of the activities that go on here. This building is headquarters of the International Institute of Buffalo. Their self-described mission is to assist immigrants, refugees, their families, and others who face linguistic and cultural barriers to become self-sufficient, productive members of our community, and to increase global understanding and international connections in Western New York. Sounds good, right? But what does that actually mean? Let's start with a crucial fact. A refugee is the same thing as an immigrant. No! A refugee is not an immigrant. An immigrant chooses to move from one country to another. A refugee has no choice. They're forced to flee. What forces them, you might ask? Well, let's dive into a drastically oversimplified summary of the political climates many refugees have faced. The refugees at the International Institute are mainly from Burma, Bhutan, Iraq, and Somalia. Burma is located in Southeast Asia, bordering India, Thailand, and Bangladesh. It has been under military rule since the early 1960s, which entails murder, arbitrary executions, torture, forced relocations, forced labor, and political imprisonment. Ironically, the current government is called the State Peace and Development Council. Bhutan. Bhutan is a landlocked nation in South Asia near India and China. Long ago, ethnic Nepalis moved to southern Bhutan looking for farmland. These people retained their own language and culture. But in the early 1980s, the peoples in the north, the majority, became worried about this growing population. Bhutanese authorities started a policy of Bhutanization, aimed at unifying the country under their culture, religion, and language. Currently, Bhutan has one of the highest numbers of refugees in proportion to its population, because the government established new citizenship requirements that disenfranchised many ethnic Nepalis, as well as took away their right to work and earn a living. Located in Western Asia, Iraq should be vaguely familiar to you. Because of sectarian violence in the Iraqi war, there are millions of displaced Iraqis. Numerous women and children within this displaced population are victims of sexual and gender-based violence and exploitation. The presence of massive numbers of Iraqi refugees is placing a heavy burden on the economies and social services of neighboring countries. Somalia is a country located in the Horn of Africa, near Kenya and Ethiopia. Somalia has seen ongoing civil war between warlords since the early 1990s. In addition to the violence stemming from this rivalry, Somalis have also had to contend with drought and floods. So where does the Institute fit into all this chaos? Well, let's move back in time to give you a bit of an idea. The Institute was originally established in 1918 as the YWCA to help prevent the exploitation of women brought to our country as domestic help. It is now a not-for-profit, non-sectarian agency affiliated with the United States Committee for Refugees and Immigrants. In 2008, 10,686 people from all walks of life and many countries around the world benefited from their programs and services, including refugees, interpreting and translation clients, participants in the Model UN and other educational programs, pre-certified victims of human trafficking, victims of domestic violence, and other legal clients with immigration concerns. So you just heard about the kinds of people they work with, but what does the Institute do for these people? Well, refugees have fled war and persecution in their native countries, and in many cases have spent years or even decades in refugee camps. The Institute assists these refugees with immediate critical needs, like food, clothing, housing, and medical care, helps them overcome language and cultural barriers, and provides employment training, job placement services, and school advocacy. The International Institute of Buffalo specializes in working with certified translators and qualified interpreters in over 60 languages. 81% of interpreters and translators have 3 years' experience or more, and 89% have college or advanced degrees. They provide services to legal and government agencies, educational institutions, corporations, health and human service agencies, and individuals. The legal department helps in acquiring legal status and other immigration services for low and moderate income families. This involves a lot of complicated paperwork and regulations that I won't pretend to understand. The International Institute provides services for immigrant victims of domestic violence and human trafficking who face unique cultural, social, economic, legal, and practical challenges. To give you an even better idea of the Institute's work and its clients, we'll examine the story of one refugee.
पहला प्रश्न, आप कहाँ से हो?
मैं भूटान से आया हूँ।
भूटान से। ओके। आप यहाँ कब आए?
यहाँ पर अभी 6 महीने हैं अब।
अच्छा, आप अपने बारे में थोड़ा बताइए मुझे।
अभी अब आता चीज नहीं अंग्रेजी, नेपाली पढ़ते थे वहाँ पर, नेपाली जानते थे, लेकिन यहाँ अब अंग्रेजी तो पढ़ नहीं सक रहा हूँ। अब इसके लिए थोड़ा दिक्कत हो रहा है।
अच्छा, आप कौन सी परिस्थिति थी जिसकी वजह से आपको यहाँ पे आना पड़ा अपने परिवार के साथ?
हमारा वहाँ का समस्या है का अब वहाँ राजनीति कर लिया भूटान सरकार, तब हम भागने पड़ा।
अच्छा,
अब उसी से हम यहाँ आना पड़ा।
मतलब क्या राजनीति?
नेपाल में बैठा, थोड़ा 17 वर्ष नेपाल में बैठा, तब नेपाल से यहाँ
नहीं तो पर वहाँ पे मतलब क्या सरकार क्या सबको भगा रही थी, मार रही थी क्या?
हाँ, अब मार करके किया था वहाँ से, भूटान से।
अच्छा, भूटान से निकाला?
हाँ, भूटान सरकार भूटान से निकाला, तब हम नेपाल आए।
तो फिर वहाँ पे फिर आप नेपाल में क्यों नहीं रहे? और मतलब यहाँ
नेपाल में तो रहना चाहिए, हमारा नागरिक भाई नहीं है। अब नेपाल में भूटान में था, वहाँ से निकाल दिया। अब नेपाल में तो है नहीं, तब वहाँ से क्या करेगा? अब खाने वाने पीने का समस्या हो गया, तब तक क्या करेगा? तो अब संस्था उठ गया कि IOM, अब वो अमेरिका ले जाएगा।
तो आपको यहाँ पे आके कैसा लग रहा है? मतलब यहाँ के वातावरण में कैसा लग रहा है आपको?
अब वातावरण ठीक लग रहा है, अच्छी लग रहा है, अब बुरा नहीं है, अब ठीक है।
और यहाँ के लोग कैसे लगते हैं?
लोग अच्छी लग रहे हैं, लेकिन नहीं बोल जानते नहीं है, बोलता ठीक है।
ये संस्था के लिए क्या क्या काम कर रही है? क्या किया आपके लिए?
यहाँ पर तक स्कूल पढ़ा रहा है, और खाने पीने का अभी तक पैसा दे रहा है।
आपको लगता है वापस जा पाएंगे?
ये तो पता नहीं है क्या जा पाएंगे या नहीं पाएंगे,
अब जाना चाहते हो?
मेरे लिए तो जाने में फ्री लगते हैं।
Life is far from easy for most refugees when they first come to Buffalo. The shock from what they have fled and what their new culture requires of them can be very overwhelming. Therefore, the friendly faces and material support that the Institute provides are much needed. As you can see, the International Institute of Buffalo does a vast array of activities. An important aspect of their work is the attitude with which they do it. All employees and volunteers are expected to possess empathy, respect for others, global concern, social responsibility, and vision. It is made clear that people should not be helping out of pity, but out of kindness. In the words of Lil Watson, an Aboriginal activist, "If you have come to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is tied up with mine, then let us work together." Working together is certainly the attitude at the IIB. Would you like to become part of the volunteer family? If so, or even if you're just curious, check out www.iibuff.org or visit 864 Delaware Avenue, Buffalo, New York. On an average day, more than 200 people come into this building to learn English, get oriented to life in America, acquire job skills, seek refuge from domestic violence, receive interpreting and translation assistance, or just to learn about cultures, languages, and countries around the world. Would you like to be one of them?